Welcome to the un-beelievable podcast. This is the worst podcast ever made, ever conceived, and will be the worst thing you ever listen to. This is a podcast hosted by me and my good friend Brandon. Say hi.
No.
Where we sit down at the end of every month and watch a B movie and then talk about it for 30 minutes. We watched B movie, didn't we? We did do that.
This is gonna be the worst year of our lives.
Wait, did we forget to watch B movie before the podcast? No. So we are doing this for a year. That is 12 episodes, and then we're gonna see if we have the mental composure to keep going. This is your first time ever watching B movie, which I was really excited for.
Yeah, this is my first time watching B movie.
Because I had to, coax you into doing another podcast with me. I had to, ease you into the idea, because the original plan was to watch Open Season at once a year, the whole trilogy. But you said no to that, but you were okay
no.
with this.
Because I knew Open Season was bad. I wasn't sure
car
if this
outside.
was.
That's great. I watched it in 2016 when the whole meme thing was going around and everyone was sharing the script of the B movie. Funny, you know?
Yeah, because it was funny.
And I watched it once or twice then, so I knew the plot and I knew what this movie was. What were you expecting going into it? Honestly. We both know what you saw.
Okay. So, I was told that it was a movie about a bee falling in love with a human.
It is for only 30 minutes of it.
It is not that.
Okay.
It is not that.
This movie
just told
is so insane because every 30 minutes the plot changes.
It's
plot
like a new movie.
Changes. Within the first 30 minutes of the plot, it is about Barry B. Benson is going to get a job at his place and he doesn't really want to work in this society. He's freaking out about it. So he leaves the hive, and for the first time I watched it, I thought he's going rogue, right?
He's gonna become a hermit.
And then he falls in love with Vanessa, and that is the good first chunk of the thing. But then after that,
it's downhill from there.
Then after that, the entire plot is about how he wants to sue the human race for manufacturing honey. And then after that, it's the aftermath, and it has some weird message about, the environment and global warming. It's basically 3 movies packed into one. It's so weird to watch. Mm-hmm. Because, going into it, you really think, oh, this is just a cute little, Toy Story-esque thing, where, the bees can't talk to the humans. They ditch that completely. And the movie just becomes, its own beast.
Something new, yeah.
So I think, on an unironic scale, I really appreciate that it's just trying to be the dumbest movie possible and just have the most absurd, thing imaginable. Mm-hmm. Because basically, when Jerry Seinfeld made this movie, I believed he accidentally agreed to making a B movie about B. And at the very beginning, the only idea he had for it was, what if we make a B movie about bees, right? It's a bad movie, but with bees. And then they wrote the script.
That sounds something like Jerry Seinfeld would say.
Yeah, he said that. And so I was reading the background for this movie, this terrible film, and they were they wanted to make it slowly become more and more absurd as it went on. One of the scrapped endings was he was going to be in space. And he would be talking to Apollo or something, right? That was one of the canceled endings. They had 3 different scripts apparently. So it's actually kind of a miracle that this movie is not as insane as it could possibly be. There's an alternate universe where this movie is way more crazy than it is. But this movie is so surreal. Because I really got the distinction that at the beginning it tried being a movie and then it just gave up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the whole thing with Bee Society, which to the respect of the film, I think it's all set up pretty well at the beginning. I think it could be a regular kids film.
Yeah.
But I think it's really good that it's not, because if it was just what it was for the first 10 minutes, where you think it's going to be a regular kids film about a bee falling in love with a girl, it would be terrible. And
That is true.
This film is definitely not terrible, right? It's
Mm,
it's 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 its own brand of terrible. I'm gonna take a sip of water. It's its own brand of terrible.
I don't think we should call it not terrible.
I don't think it's terrible, but it's also not terrible. I don't know. Not terrible is what it is. I what did you even know going into it, like, at all?
Literally, that it was a movie about a bee falling in love with a human, and then he says, "Do you like jazz?" That's the only thing I've ever known about bee movie.
Okay, I guess we're hitting the 5 minute mark now, and I think the most appropriate thing to do for the first episode. I have a lot of things I want to say about this film going in the later episodes, but this first one, I think we should just recap the plot and dissect it a little bit. It's kind of terrible.
It is, yeah, it is awful.
Okay, so at the beginning, Barry B. Benson is this bee voiced by Jerry Seinfeld, and he looks like an asshole. Can we just get that out of the way? His
He
hair,
does look like he looks like he
looks
would
like-
not ask for consent.
he doesn't look like a cool person, and I don't like him, like the way he looks. So, he's starting it, he's picking out his outfit. They're graduating. He's in like a B class that we never really see, and they're graduating, and he meets his buddy who is named Adam.
Which
Adam?
they're definitely lovers.
They're lovers in disguise, but we won't touch on that yet. So that's like his friend, but it's never really established like how long they've known each other for whatever, because who cares?
How they met, when they met, yeah.
And what's weird
They're
about
bees.
Adam as a character is I've kind of paid attention to this. Have you noticed that I could be getting his name completely wrong right now, but the little character in the black bee jacket. So he is like a character at the beginning of the film. He's like very important. And then until the last 30 minutes, the film completely forgets about him.
Yeah.
The entire middle section of this film, he is just not in there at all. And then he becomes super important afterwards.
Mhm.
I don't... So, he goes, eventually he goes outside because he's, afraid of doing one job for the rest of his life. So he has this bee existential crisis where he's like, I don't want to just be doing one thing for my entire life and then die. And I thought that was going to be the plot, was him coming to terms with that. But it wasn't.
Boy, were we wrong.
So, long story short, he meets this florist named Vanessa, and I think Vanessa is really bad.
What?
Because her character, she has no motivation as a character. It's like she just wants to help him soothe the human race and is obsessed with flowers and bees. Which, let's be real here, if you were dating a girl and she was cheating on you with a bee, that would be the least sane person on the planet. Vanessa is insane throughout this entire film. I think she thinks she is a bee, because during the court session where it's the bees against humanity, she's wearing a bee outfit and sitting with the bees. She's wearing a little yellow dress, and it's like, are you just one of them now? It confuses me. It confuses me to know.
I think she joined the bee race.
She joined them as a race, and maybe that was her secret goal all along, was to become a bee. That's why she was so attracted to flowers. She thought she was a bee, but only until Barry B. Benson enters her life can she do it. Maybe that's the plot. This movie doesn't really have
no.
it.
I don't think that's it, actually.
He falls in love with this girl, and I actually have a kind of complex theory here I do want to touch on this episode, but not quite yet. So eventually they're walking down the aisle and they are just talking to her. They're walking down the aisle of a store, and it is it's mostly normal up till this point, because it's like, oh, it's about a bee falling in love with a woman. I understand this. But then he sees a jar of honey, and the plot of the movie just flips on a dime because of that. Did you notice how fast that was?
Yeah.
They were just casually talking, and it was setting up their little relationship, and then he sees a jar of honey, and instantly, the plot instantaneously it changes to him wanting to like sue the human race because they steal honey from people. I almost want to say that they had two different ideas for a movie, and they mashed them
They didn't want to
together.
make two different movies, so they kind of just mashed them into one.
Because
Yeah.
I really think the first half of this is about him falling in love with the girl, and the second half is him suing the race. And if you really want to be specific, the last 10 minutes are about climate
Him saving the
change,
planet.
saving the planet. Which there's so many things I could get into. So at the very beginning, it establishes bees are not to talk to humans, and he does that, and he even mentions himself like, "Oh, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for doing this." What is the punishment for doing that?
He doesn't. He doesn't get in trouble.
He doesn't get in any
He does
trouble.
it and gets in nothing bad happens to him.
What do you think the bee law punishment is for that?
They probably throw them out and like clip their wings.
That's brutal, but sure. Anyways, so I like there's no explanation on the whole like bees must not talk to humans thing, because eventually it's established that every living creature on this earth is sentient and can talk just like humans. That was disgusting. They can all talk just like humans. And it is never explained or resolved. And this is where
because it happens at the last 5 seconds.
It's not even that. So up until that point, it establishes that every bug is like can talk and is normal. And I guess I understand that. If it's like universal bug law not to talk to people, I guess the same. It's like Toy Story rules. I get that. But then at the very end, there's a cow who wants to sue humans because they take milk. And
yogurt.
This movie broke my mind at that point because I was just. How have humans not been wiped extinct by the other races yet, you know? I also want to mention there are only 2 animals in this entire film, and the cow and the bear that shows up later, they're both just taken from other movies. They're just stolen assets from other movies.
Yeah.
It's so wild. So he eventually decides, because of this honey, he decides to sue the human race for stealing honey. And we're skipping over a lot of like really stupid scenes that I don't want to talk about. Like there's a scene where he fights a guy with his stinger and the guy is using a thumbtack. And
there's a scene where he's in a pool of honey and he swims down and has a lovely date picnic that isn't real and then almost drowns. I do want to talk about that
scene later.
Yeah,
like there are a bunch of random scenes in this that do not need to be there. Haha, be pun. I don't know. It's so bizarre what they do in this film. It really does feel like there were 2 films that they just mashed together. But
yeah,
I think I want to also mention the comedy in this movie, not funny.
Not funny.
So I feel like most of this was written by Jerry, the man himself. But he obviously had other writers. And you can very obviously tell when he writes a joke and when someone else writes a joke. Because when he writes a joke, it's about like, I don't know, social commentary and like the youth. It's supposed to be funny, but it's not. His jokes never land. Did you laugh once at this film?
I literally didn't know.
Yeah, the whole time we were just sitting there in silence, and I was like laughing at the fact that we're doing this for a whole year.
You laughed at what's his name?
I laughed at Ken. Ken is the boyfriend to Vanessa, who is the insane lady who cheats on him with a bee, and I think he's very funny because I like his voice actor. Ken is the only reasonable person in this like society because he's the only person where when she says, "Oh, I'm gonna sue the human race," he isn't immediately like, "Oh hell yeah, dog. Oh yeah, dog." He has like
he just like makes sense.
He has like a moment of doubt, and that is the only question that ever comes up because he sues the human race, and it is never established what that means.
And
because
how?
He's actually just like suing like these honey companies, I guess. And it passes, but like you live in America. You very distinctly, it is in New York. You can see the Big Apple. It's very obviously New York. Unless like the entire world is America, Like, what are you gonna do in China? There are like Asian bees that are getting their honey stolen. What is he gonna do about that, right? There's a montage where they're literally just taking honey, but it's only honey that we've seen in the city already. They never go to like anywhere else but New York to take honey back to the bees. It's so confusing. Um, and also like the honey is delivered back to Barry's hive, but like, are there other hives? Are they in on this? Are there other bees?
And if there are other beehives that like get honey back, why don't we get to see them?
I think it's implied that there are, and that they're all like unified. It's like different towns of the bee society, because they have like, oh, bee rule number 1, and like that has to be shared with like another hive. But if the implication is that this is the only hive in all of New York City, that's insane. I want to see bee warfare in my bee movie. I want to see.
I want
bee
to see
warfare
bee
in my
war.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. So there's this character who is representing, I guess, the entire human race, and he is this like fat, foolish Kentucky
Crustacean.
Fried Chicken man, and he is not funny at all.
No.
So the joke on him is that he's super wacky and wild, and he's always yelling at the bee, and he's fat, and he has a big butt.
Is he a joke? I didn't think he was supposed to
I
be
guess
comedy.
I guess he was.
I
Supposed
thought he
to be
was just
funny.
supposed to be antagonist.
I never once laughed about that.
He did the butt thing where he showed his butt.
He did his butt.
He did the butt. That's about it.
So Adam, who is suddenly in the film again, stings this lawyer, but like I also want to mention there's a lot of allusions to slavery, like American slavery in this court scene.
That's not cool.
Okay, they keep mentioning how like bees are slaved, and they keep trying to like draw a parallel between the bees and the black slaves of the 1800s. I don't think I'm cool with that, Jerry.
No. Jerry.
I'm just now realizing Jerry Seinfeld, Jerry Barry. He named the character after himself.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Anyway, there are a lot of jokes in this movie that have not aged well. Like at all.
And they do not go anywhere sometimes.
Sometimes they're literally just like so bad that I have to wonder if they were added just for like cringe comedy.
Or if they were supposed to be jokes.
Or jokes in the first place. I don't understand. I've listened to like Jerry Seinfeld's stand-up, and it's not even really like this movie's humor because he's a bee. There's nothing relatable about a bee. His jokes are supposed to be like entertaining to a boomer audience. They're supposed to be like relatable to them, but you can't relate to this stupid bee.
Because he's a bee.
I don't care about the bee. The bees. I don't care about it.
What's the deal with the bees?
What's the deal with bees? So he stings this lawyer, and throughout the film, it's kind of established that if you sting someone, you usually don't survive from it. He's on the hospital bed for literally less than 5 minutes, and then he comes back, and he gets like this funny little pink sword on his tail.
It was like a cocktail pick. Yeah,
it was a cocktail pick. I don't care about Adam. So
again, not good.
So suddenly he's like, this was really weird to me. He gets this revelation while he's meeting him in the hospital, Barry does, and he's like, I know what can save this case, and he brings in a smoker that they use to smoke bees. And it's like, do these people who own the honey companies and who own the court not know how honey is taken from bees? Like, they know about smoking, right? They know that we smoke bees. It's never explained. Nothing in this film is explained.
You could say, oh, it's a dumb movie, but no.
It's trying to be... It's
trying to be so many things, but it's none of them.
It's trying to be like a court drama. It's trying to be like a love film about...
But they somehow mess all of it up.
And then, at the end of the film, they eventually get the honey recalled, and the plants start dying, and then it becomes this weird, like, environmental thing for, like, 5 minutes, and then they save the day. I seriously do not understand. I don't think I was meant to. But What's especially weird to me is that this is a movie that is seemingly made for kids, and yet I do not see kids getting any enjoyment out this whatsoever.
No.
To the point where I actually don't know who got enjoyment out of this, because it certainly wasn't us.
Jerry.
Jerry did. It was a movie.
The
for
movie
Jerry.
was made for Jerry Seinfeld.
So, the B movie was a box office hit, by the way. It was a financial success. It raised a lot of money.
Okay.
How did we let this happen? How did we let this happen? It had a PS2 video game made for it. How did we let this happen?
As most things did.
Yeah. There's this joke they do that they keep doing throughout the film where it's like the bee's antennas are cell phones. I thought that was really dumb. I thought that was really stupid. They also have cars.
Dumb.
They have cars in the bee society.
They've got bee cars.
And like you can fly. Now I'm pretty sure there's a throwaway line where Vanessa's like, "Why don't you fly everywhere?" And he's like, "Well, why don't humans run everywhere?" And it's like that doesn't explain the fact that you drive a car. Like, are the hives really that big that you have to have a car to go everywhere? Because the answer is no, they're not. No. I can literally see there's a scene where he's out at the runway and it's next to one of the walls of the hive, and you can see the other side of the hive all the way from there. It is small, dude.
Not swole.
There's a lot of jokes about incest in this film.
Yeah,
because
Jerry, what was that about?
Because all the bees are like supposed to be cousins. I guess because that's how bees are in real life, and they kept mentioning that, and it was never funny. It was never funny.
No, this movie isn't funny.
I cannot stress this enough, people. This movie is not funny. So we're hitting the 25-minute mark, and I want to bring up something I noticed. So during the dream sequence, Vanessa is wearing this yellow outfit that we later see her wear in the court. I mentioned this earlier. It's like a bee-themed outfit, and she's wearing it during this dream sequence he has while he's like thinking of Vanessa, and she like flies a plane or whatever. I think,
and then she dies.
This may be an Inception-like reference to the fact that if she was wearing that outfit previously during the dream sequence and then wears it again during the court case, does that mean the court case was also a dream sequence?
No.
This is my first big theory, because I noticed this, and it's not developed into anything. But what if Barry B. Benson really did die, like around this part? What if he died somewhere? And then in his last throes of imagination, he imagined like suing the human race. And that outfit, when she wears it again, is the subtle cue to the audience by the brilliant director, Jerry Seinfeld, that this is actually not real. That is my theory.
I think you're insane. Theory.
I think this movie is insane.
That is true.
It's just so tonally weird too, because it never tries to really take itself seriously, but because of that, I'm not invested in what's happening. And it's not funny. And really, it's only the absurdity of what's happening on screen is only funny when it's like in retrospect. It's only funny now because we're realizing how like lopsided this film is, but while you're watching it, it is just boring. This movie, for the majority of its runtime, is just really boring. And, you know, that's the worst kind of movie you can have. I have other theories that I'll bring up, but I really do think that there was some crazy dream-like sequence wherein he died, because that is... She wears like two outfits, and for the majority of it's just a regular outfit, but then the bee outfit. And so that has some form of significance, I believe. I think Jerry knew what he was doing there.
I don't think he did. I really don't think he did. I think he just didn't want to come up with a new outfit. I also don't think he designed the characters.
There's a promo he did for B-Movie right before it was going to be released where he wears a big bee outfit and a crane lifts him down from the sky and he's like, "Oh, I'm flying. I'm Barry B. Benson." So I thought that was a thing that happened. It's pretty
We're
interesting.
we're very lucky. His name's in Barry Beinfeld. We are very
Barry
lucky.
Beinfeld. Oh, that would be so good though if that was what he did. I also want to. I believe B movie was in like development hell for a really long time. Like it
I would
took
not
like
be
five.
surprised.
It took like 5 years to make because no one knew what they were making, and even as you're watching it, you get the sense that like no one is really sure what this is. I'm not sure what B movie is.
No.
So I feel like this movie, like everything about it, is just strange because it's like it was a box office success. But outside of the one really unfunny meme, no one talks about it. No one discusses this movie. Jerry Seinfeld doesn't talk about this movie. He made it basically on a whim, just out of one stupid idea for no reason. He had no financial like gain that could be like that he would have known he was gonna get, right? A sequel was never developed. Why does this movie exist?
Yeah, I don't think it should, honestly.
This movie exists for us to watch it, and we're gonna watch
But
it
it was
again
made
next month.
by and for Jerry Seinfeld.
It was made by and for Jerry Seinfeld. So, we want to explain our little rating system.
Yeah. I don't. What is it again?
So we came up with a rating system while we were watching the film where
Yeah.
we have two ratings.
We
It's
have the
1 out
normal
of
movie
10.
rating where we rate it on if it was a good movie or not.
Yes, that's a 1 out of 10, and then there's a 1 out of 10 on how B movie it was this time around.
Yes. Okay, that's what it was. Okay.
All right, so what do you want to propose?
We're gonna rate it in two different directions.
I think
1 out
the
of 10.
movie itself was. I think the movie itself was a 4 out of 10 for me. I did not enjoy this flick. It was not
I
fun.
think it was a 6 out of 10, but there was the one joke in there that we are not going to discuss.
That we are not going to discuss yet. We will cover it later.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That removed it straight down to a 4 out of 10 for me.
Now,
it was a joke
scale,
not of its time. On a B movie scale.
On a B movie
1 out
scale.
of B.
So I'm gonna say 1 out of 10 on the B movie scale because I'm not feeling it yet. But I think next month I'll be on the B train.
I want to say that it was bad. So I will give it like a full-on 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10
because
for the B
I
movie
watched
scale?
it and I was like, this. No, 3 out of 10 B movie scale because I watched it and I was like, this doesn't feel like the B movie.
Yeah, it's not B movie enough yet. All right, well, this has been the Un-beelievable podcast. We will be back next month.
I already want to stop.
Roughly the same time. We are doing this for a year. There is no stopping it. We have to do this. This is a curse for us to bear. Do not forget it. And remember to believe in yourself.